So I have a question for all of you before this video starts. And the question is, who here likes to shop? I would say all of you like to shop. You might like to shop for clothes, you might like to shop for shoes, you might like to shop for a new laptop or an iPad or an iPhone. You might like to shop for sports equipment like a new basketball or new shoes or a new Jays hat to start the season. You all like to shop. And out of all the people that like to shop, who loves a deal? I'm pretty sure you all love a deal. So when you go shopping, you look through flyers and you see things like this. And you go, wow, I'm going to go buy that Jays jersey because it's 30% off. Or you say, I'm going to buy that new laptop that I've been looking at because I can get up to 25% off. Or you go on and you're looking for new clothes and you go, wow, I want those new jeans. Look, I can get 20% off. Now, how do you know for sure when you're shopping that you're getting good deals, that you're getting what it says you're getting? For example, this one says up to 25% off. What does that mean? Does that mean you're actually getting 25% off? Is there one thing in the store that's 25% off and everything else is lower and they use that up to 25% off to get you in the store? That's where math comes into play. If you know your math, if you know how to do quick calculations with discounts, you'll know if you're getting a good deal. And that's what brings us to our topic for today, which is looking at things like discount and how do we calculate savings on products. But unfortunately, we're not just going to be looking at discount. When we go shopping, we all know, we live in Canada. We live in Ontario. Even if you don't live in Canada, it still exists, but especially in Canada, we have to pay tax. And in Ontario, we have to pay a tax called the HST. And the HST is 13%. It's called the Harmonized Sales Tax. The only thing that you don't have to pay tax on are food items that are not things like junk food and pop. So if you were going and buying bread or buying cheese or meat, you don't have to pay sales tax. You also don't have to pay full sales tax on children's clothing or on books, but a lot of things you do have to pay the full 13% off on. I know we're doing a kitchen renovation and my husband and I are looking at pricing out things and we found a price that we really liked and then it's like, oh, it's the price plus HST. And then we go, oh, because, you think it's one thing, and when you're spending money on a kitchen and you're spending, quite a bit of money, like maybe $40,000 or $50,000, that HST is going to add up. But it's a way of life, and we just have to deal with it. So we need to know how to calculate HST. So here's an example. I'm going to the mall, and I found some shoes, and they're $34.25. How am I going to calculate the tax? Well, HST is 13% on everything that we buy. So it's 13% in this case of the $34.25. And we've learned in reviewing percent that when we work with percent, it's kind of a useless number in a way because 13% doesn't actually mean 13. It means 13 out of 100. And that actually is 0.13. So to turn percents into decimals, which is what we want to do when we work with them, we have to move the decimal place over twice or divide by 100. Whenever we're calculating with percents, we always multiply. And that's pretty standard. So you always take your percent, you turn it into a decimal, and you multiply. And then it's just a matter of getting out your calculator and figuring that out. Money, because tax is money, we always round to 2 decimals. Always. It won't say that. Money is always 2 decimals. So in this case, it's $4.45. So she's going to pay $4.45 in tax. Not so bad, but it would be better if you didn't have to pay anything. And by the way, if you're interested in that, if you ever go shopping in Pennsylvania, you don't have to pay sales tax on clothing and shoes in Pennsylvania, which is kind of cool. The only bad thing is you have to pay the exchange rate. So now, what's the total amount that we're going to pay? Well, the total will be the amount of the shoes, the amount of the shoes on the shelf, so the $34.25, plus our tax. So that the reason why I want to know these things is I want to know, like, am I going to have enough money? Do I need to save up more money? So if my mom, for example, gave me $40, or I'd saved up $40, do I have enough money to buy the shoes? In this case, yes, I do. So that is my total amount that I would actually pay to the store. And then the store would give a portion to the government for tax, and the store would keep a portion for, profit and making money. Now, some of you are going to think, okay, great. Well, what if I just asked for the total? Maybe I didn't ask to break it down. I just am at a store and I want to know, what's my total price going to be? There's a faster way to go straight to the total for anyone that's interested. So when we think about this, in this case, the shoes, they're not on sale. So we're paying 100% for the shoes plus 13% for the tax. So in total, that's like the shoes, we're actually paying 113% of the shoe price when we include tax. So that's a way that we can go straight to the final price. So we're paying $34.25, 113% of that, which is 1.13. If we do that, we're going to go straight to $38.70. So for those of you that are interested in kind of a little bit of a shortcut in terms of going straight to the final price, there it is. If you're not interested in that, you can calculate them separately. And sometimes you're going to have to calculate them separately anyway, because I might ask for what's the tax on this, not what's the total on this. So that's just one way that you could go straight to the total. So as I said before, we were looking at all of these different sales and how cool, we all like a good sale. Well, how do we calculate our price then? So whenever you calculate a sale price, you always first take off the discount and figure out what's the new cost going to be, and then you calculate tax. You do not calculate tax on the regular price if something is on sale. You only pay tax on what you're paying for an item. So here are some soccer shoes that are 25% off. So how am I going to figure out the sale price? Well, I'm just going to figure out what's 25% of my regular price. I turn that percent into a decimal. I get out my calculator, or some of you, if you're good with mental math, you maybe figure that out, because 25% is not a bad number to work with. Just for anyone that's interested, quick ways of doing percents in your head. 10% is just moving the decimal once. So $65, to get 10% of that, that's $6.50. Then 20% would just be double that. So that would be $13 and so on. 5% would just be half that. So if 10% is $6.50, 5% would be $3.25. So those are just some quick mental math. For anyone that's interested, it is good to kind of know this. When I go shopping, I can do a very quick estimate without needing a calculator, just in my head, about how much something is and whether I think it's a good deal or not. And that's always a good skill to have. So that is $16.25. Now think about it. If the shoes were 25% off, are they really $16.25? No. That number is what's called the discount. That number is the discount. It's how much I save. That's the amount saved. It's not the amount that you pay. To get the price of the shoes, you then need to take the discount away from the regular price to get how much, this is what we call the sale price. So that number is the sale price. So be very, very careful. You've got your discount of $16.25, and you have your sale price of $48.75. Now again, for those of you who are saying, well, I don't really care what the discount is, I just want to know the sale price, what's a faster way? You have to ask yourself, if the shoes are 25% off, how much are you paying for the shoes? Well, you're paying 75%, because the regular price of the shoes, we consider that like 100%. When we take away the 25, oh my gosh, the computer's having issues, sorry. We get 75%. So to go straight to the sale price, you could just find 75% of your $65 and get your $48.75 right then. Again, you don't have to do that. It's just a choice and an option available to you if you're interested in it. Now the question is, okay, how much are the shoes with tax? So remember, there's two ways we could do that. We could find 13% of our new price. Again, be careful. It's 13% from the price that we actually pay for the shoes. Now my calculator gave me 6.3375. Remember, money is always two decimal places. That 337 is going to make me round it up to 634. So you do have to keep that in mind. So that's what the tax is. Then I need to get the price including tax. So I need to add those together. And I get 55.09. Now, for the purposes of all of these questions, we are going to keep it to pennies. And I know that you might be wondering, well, right now in Ontario, we don't really have, or in Canada, we don't really have pennies, but we sort of do. So if you put things on a credit card, so if I paid for this on a credit card or a debit card, it will come to 55.09. If I paid cash, then I would actually have to pay 55.10. I'd have to round up to the nearest 5 or 10. Or round down, depending. So if it was 55.06, I'd pay 55.05 for it. So I don't always round up. So in this, for the purposes of these questions, we're going to pretend like we're paying with a debit card or credit card. And then just keep in mind, if you were actually in a store paying cash, the price would be slightly different because it would round to the nearest 5. Now, for those of you that want to just go straight to the price, you can do that. Remember, you can do 1.13. So you don't have to calculate the tax separately if you don't want to. You're still going to get 55.09. You're just going to get there a little bit quicker. But keep in mind, if I asked you for what is the tax that you'd pay, the tax is $6.34. Now, a couple things to also kind of think about in your head, and we're going to be looking at this and discussing it. There's two kind of questions with discount. One, you'll see sometimes in stores that will say, save the tax, save the tax, HST off. And we know that HST is 13%. So one question is, does that mean you actually saved 13%? And that's something that, if you're interested, we're going to look at and maybe have a bit of a discussion about. The other thing that some people think is, well, if I take 13% off and then I add my tax of 13%, does that mean that it will cost, so if it was $20 and I take off 13%, it was on sale for 13% off, or I saved the tax, and then I added the tax back on, will I pay $20? And that's another discussion that we're going to have, kind of an interesting thing mathematically. Another one that's really popular with percents that you'll sometimes see in stores is what's called a double discount, where it will say, something's on sale for 25% off, and then you have an additional coupon for 10% off. Those are really awesome. I love double discounts. But again, you have to ask yourself, if a coupon was 25% off and then 10% off, does that mean you're going to save 35%? And again, we're going to be looking at this and having kind of some discussions about those things, because sometimes discounts are not exactly what you might think. And the general population is not always so great with their math skills. And they can be kind of fooled into thinking sometimes they're saving more than they actually are. So just something to kind of keep in the back of your head. We're just going to look at one other type of question, and these ones are a little bit more challenging. So these questions don't give you the percent, and they're looking at you calculating the percent. So because sometimes in a store you'll just have a sale price and it won't tell you the percent that you're saving. So we know the regular price of the bike and we know what it now costs. And the question is, what's the percent discount? So one way we can do this is to set up a proportion. We've just talked about proportions. We can say sale price over regular price. Now, keep in mind, percent is out of 100. So regular price, we consider our regular price to be 100%. And then we have X. Now, this is a friendly one, so we really can just divide by 2. and divide by 2, and we get 75. Now the question is, does that mean we got 75% off the bike? And this is confusing, but we didn't. Because 150 isn't the sale price. Or sorry, the 150 is the sale price. It's not the discount. So the 75 is what we paid for the bike. We paid 75% of the regular price. That means that we saved 25%. Another way of doing this question is to think to ourselves, how much money did we save? We saved $50. So instead of doing 150, we do 50. We do the amount saved over the regular price. If we do it that way, we'll end up with 25, which is the percent saved. So this method is looking at the percent you paid and then subtracting from 100. Remember, 100 minus 75 will give us 25. So this is doing amount paid minus, and then we get our sale. Or we can do amount saved and then get our sale, or the discount saved. The next question, again, a little bit challenging because it gives us the sale price and the discount, but it doesn't give us the regular price. So what we have to think of here is the 35% what we paid for the item. Did we pay 35%? The answer is no. What we actually paid was 65%. And we have to keep that in mind. That's what we paid. We paid 65%. So our price of $26 represents 65% of the regular price. That's really important. Now we can again set this up as a proportion. We can say, well, 65% paid out of 100, because percent's always out of 100, is equal to, now where do I put the 26? Remember, 26 is what I paid. So this is the amount paid. This is the full price. That's where I'm going to put my X to find my regular price. I couldn't use 35 though, because 35 is the price, the amount that I saved. It's not the amount that I paid. And 26 is not, if I said you saved $10 on a shirt, then yes, you could do it that way. But I didn't. I said you paid that amount for the shirt. Now, these numbers are not friendly, so we can do cross multiplying and dividing. So we can say 65x equals 2600, and then I can divide by 65. And I get 40. So I know the regular price is $40. Now I know those two problems are confusing. They are challenges, but there are going to be some that we want you to try. And so sometimes it's not just as simple as this is the percent off, calculate how much it will cost. Sometimes there's other things you have to know. Often, as I said, in stores, it will just give you, when you go shopping, there'll just be a red sticker on it, and it will give you a new price. It will give you the sale price. But it doesn't tell you the percent that you got off. And so sometimes it's good to know that, just to know how good of a deal are you actually getting. So those are just some extra little challenging problems. Sales tax and discount, you're going to use all the time when you're older. And sure, the store can just calculate it all for you. You can take their word for it. But sometimes it's really good to know these things, to be able to know, are you getting a good deal? Just another thing as an aside, percents are also used when you go to restaurants for tipping. So I'm just going to throw that in there as a little bit extra. Tipping and restaurants, generally we tip between 15 and 20%. And that's also something that you need to be able to know how to do, is if my meal came to $30, so let's say my meal came to $30, how much of a tip should I leave? Well, I'm going to leave 15% of $30 or $4.50, or I could leave up to 20%. I could leave more. You really can leave anything, but standards are between 15 and 20%. So that's telling me that my tip should be somewhere between $4.50 and $6. Now, other things that you have to consider with tipping: do you tip on the subtotal or do you tip on the price with tax? My own personal belief is that I shouldn't have to pay a percentage of the tax, which increases my bill. So I always tip on the subtotal. But now they have these handy dandy machines that will calculate a tip for you, which is kind of cool because then you don't have to do the math. But the interesting thing with those machines is they're built in to tip on the full price. So the tip will actually be on the price including tax, which if your meal is only $20 or $30 isn't a big deal. But say you're taking 10 or 12 people out for lunch because when you're older, you run your own business and you're taking people out for lunch and your bill comes to, $1,000, that's going to be quite a big difference in price. Again, these are things that you need to be aware of to know if you're being charged the right amounts. So these things, don't want to just rely on a store to tell you what it is or a little machine to tell you what you should tip. You should always be able to know how to do these. Tips are actually very easy to do in your head because the numbers are 15% is really easy, or 20% is even easier. All you do is move the decimal place once and times it by 2. So 20% of 30 is just 10%, which is $3. So move the decimal place once, $3 is 10%, and double it. Or to get 5, again, as I said, you half it. And I can work with anyone that's interested on some mental math strategies. They're really useful things to know. Anyhow, that's my aside about tipping. It is another place where in your life you're going to use a lot of percents, and it's really helpful to know how to do it.